We'll also have a 20 to 30 member citizen advisory board. So if you have an interest, let us know. We're going to come out with recruitment criteria here in another 3 weeks, I think, to be recruiting people for that committee. There's going to be about 4 or 5 meetings in that year-long period. And really what the committee is going to do is they're going to help us tell the story about why is aviation important or why isn't it. Okay, so I'm going to briefly just talk about some of the trends, some of the forecasts that we saw as we were conducting the long-term aviation transportation study. But what we found out was that there was, from now until 2030, commercial aviation is expected to increase by 90%. General aviation is expected to increase by 45%. Now we have some significant economic issues that have come up the last couple of years. These numbers are probably, by 2030, it'll probably be 2035 or 2040 that those are achieved. But I think what's significant is that commercial aviation is going to continue to grow, general aviation is going to grow, and freight is a huge market around the state. So the other thing that we found when we did our forecasting, and we went back to 1993 to look at the historic based aircraft operations, based aircraft and operations at each airport. What we found out was that in Washington State, we are ahead of the national average in that we're growing faster than the national average. And that's pretty significant when we look at general aviation. Go ahead. In general aviation, a lot of you may not know, but general aviation is a huge component of the air transportation system. It's basically almost every type of aircraft except for military or commercial service aircraft. So you can talk about a single engine aircraft that you might see up here at this airport up to a 727 or larger. If it is not used for scheduled passenger service or the military, it is considered a general aviation aircraft. The other things that we see in general aviation is that over 57% of all general aviation aircraft is being used for business in some way or another. And most of those aircraft are small to medium-sized aircraft. Okay. So when we're looking at the forecast, some of the things that we saw, and this may have contributed to new technologies as well as 9/11. In that we're seeing an increase in corporate aviation around the nation, around the state. And we think that we can capitalize on that through our program. We're also going to see an increase in helicopter operations. You may have noticed more helicopters flying over your house lately. But the other thing that's going to be interesting is that we'll probably experience a decline in the single-engine aircraft. Okay, so we took a look at some of these trends, and again, what we saw was that we are experiencing more people, more corporate aviation, more people are flying their own private aircraft to get to places to do business. So one of the other things that we wanted to do is we wanted to try to measure the system. So again, LAT, what it did is it took a look at what the existing system was, what did we need, which was really the forecast, and then the final was, how do we get there? So the very first thing that we did is we looked at what's the capacity around the state. What kind of, how were these airports? Do they have enough room to conduct their business for the next 30 years? Did they need more room? And so we did a capacity analysis. The second thing we did is we wanted to know how well the system performed in terms of a system-wide approach. And in that we developed, again, the classification system. And we measured that classification system against performance objectives. And those performance objectives are going to help us to target our resources, our limited financing, we hope, better. Okay. So the capacity analysis really took a look at the airfield, terminal, airspace, storage issues. And what we found out was that there are 10 airports in the state that are at capacity, at or over capacity. Those 10 airports are all located in the Puget Sound area. The Puget Sound area contains over 50% of the based aircraft in the state and over 50% of the operations. Some of the most significant airports that are reaching capacity or will reach capacity That was probably delayed until 2035 or 2040. SeaTac International Airport, that's even with the third runway. Lloyd and Harvey Field, which is a private airport. The other thing that we found out was that approximately a quarter of the airports across the state were going to have storage shortages. Colville was actually identified as one of those airports that's having storage. When we talk about storage, it's really where are you parking your aircraft? Hangar development. So that was a significant issue as well. Some of the other things that we found out was how the encroachment of land use was affecting our airports across the state. Okay. And I may know that in terms of airspace, there were no conflicts that we found within the state. Again, this is the airport classification system showed to you a little bit earlier. It's significant because we were able to take a look at how the system performed. And we identified 7 different performance objectives. Go ahead. So these are the performance objectives. It's really passenger terminals. Now, passenger terminals are only used for commercial airports. We looked at runway length. The importance of runway length was that if you have at least a 5,000-foot runway, you can get a lot more business aircraft to come to your community. We looked at taxiway, navigation systems, lighting, fuel sales, maintenance service. All of those, we analyzed the system. We looked at every single airport to find out where we were in the system. So this is what you might typically find with one of the classifications. This is for a regional airport, and again, Colville was identified as a regional airport as well as Deer Park. So some of the things we found when we applied the performance measures was that for the regional system, we didn't have very good lighting. We didn't have very good navigational systems. Navigational systems are really important in today's terms because most of the business aircraft are using enhanced navigational aids to come to communities. And so if we make sure that we have long enough runways, good navigation systems, we think because of the trends changing in the corporate aviation sector, that we'll see more point-to-point flying of businesses coming to different community airports. And so our performance measures were based off of how do we build towards that trend that we think is going to happen. And so this is again a typical slide that you would find for one of our classifications. We have them for commercial, community, local airports as well. So I kind of went over these before, but these were some of the findings of the LAT study. Again, 10 airports, mostly Puget Sound. We had capacity problems, we also had storage problems. We had land use issues. We took a look at all of the different funding options that we had, and so we had also a shrinking budget for capital planning. So one of the things we did after we did all of our analysis, we also developed policies. And policies are going to help us really look at the system long term. And there were 7 different policies. A couple of those policies were really to make sure that we are funding the system, the improvements that we need to grow the system, that we need to address land use compatibility issues, those kind of things. And I have 2 documents here in case you're interested. So this one here is really recommendations of the system that were provided by LATS. And this is here is the aviation system plan. This is the system plan itself. The background documents are another 2 volumes, so it's quite extensive. This is all available on the website if you want to take a look at it. All of the policy information that was developed by the council and the recommendations. Okay. So these are some of the key issues that they identified. So we wanted to make sure we're investing in navigational aids so that we can encourage business aircraft to come to our communities. We want to make sure we're using the existing capacity in the system before building new airports. We wanted to make sure that we were coordinating with local government. And there's a few others there as well. Okay, so that was the end of the presentation. We have lots of material on that, so if you have any questions, let me know. And this information is all on the website. Thank you.